Well, we're living in an era of mass immigration. There is no other way to describe it. When these figures come out on Thursday, depending exactly where the numbers are, the level of net migration to the United Kingdom since the Conservatives took power in 2010 is going to be an astonishing 3.5 to 4 million. And as we know from EU nationals at the time of the referendum, that probably is an underestimate. So here's a party that's promised us tens of thousands a year, and it's turning into many millions over their term in office. And we're having a big debate about economically whether we can survive without large numbers of people coming into the country, what the impact is on GDP and whether it is a net benefit. Well, it may have been at one time. I think now that's rather dubious. What we never discuss are the cultural impacts of this. Why do I say that? Well, if you have communities coming into Britain from all over the world, but you have a degree of integration and assimilation, then things seem to work pretty well. But if people come into this country and maintain cultures from other countries that may not be consistent with ours, well, maybe then we have real problems. And you might remember last year in Leicester, night after night, there were sort of marauding gangs of Hindus and Muslims basically having street fights, which did raise a lot of eyebrows. So I think we maybe do have a little bit of a problem here. But what do you think? Is multicultural Britain working? I think over the course of the next year or two, people will start to make the connection that the reason there's a housing crisis is mass immigration. The reason they can't get a GP appointment is mass immigration. The reason their lives are more miserable than they were 10 years ago, their quality of life is diminishing, is because of the population crisis and explosion in this country.
The indigenous population found themselves made strangers in their own country, their wives unable to obtain hospital beds in childbirth, their children unable to obtain school places, their homes and neighbourhoods changed beyond recognition. I mean, you'd agree with that, would you?
In a lot of England, that's true.
And you know where that's from, don't you?
I don't know.
Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech.
Is it?
So-called Rivers of Blood.
Well, what he was warning about was that if you have a large influx of people into an area that change an area beyond recognition, there is tension. That basic principle is right.
Hello, I'm here in Liverpool city centre on this sunny, lovely Friday morning. It's beginning to get really, really busy. You've just watched 3 videos there of the charismatic Nigel Farage. What's interesting about what he says is what I've been saying about new arrivals coming into our country in large numbers, bringing with them different cultures, belief systems, different values, standards that are not compatible or assimilable with our culture, our ways, our belief system and so on, right? And he's quite right. Here in Liverpool we've seen that with disastrous consequences in the once proud working class community of Kensington and Fairfield. That is a typical example of what happens when assimilation doesn't work. Nigel Farage also talks about not getting a GP appointment and how mass immigration is making all our lives miserable. There's also a final video. There's excerpts from Enoch Powell's so-called Rivers of Blood speech in 1968, where he talked about people not getting hospital beds, schools and housing. Again, everything that I'm now saying. Sadly, why didn't the powers that be then listen to Enoch Powell? I just don't know, right? And mass immigration has continued unabated to the point where large parts of our country now have vanished and represents an outpost of the third world somewhere. But more worrying is what's happening to our city now here in Liverpool. We are seeing, should I say, that change happening in Kensington and Fairfield, as well as along West Derby Road, Prescott Road, Wreck Road and Anfield. We can see large parts of our city now being changed. Enoch Powell was talking about his constituency in Wolverhampton back in 1968, right? So we were all warned by this great gentleman as to what was going to happen, and no one took any notice. and the rest is history. But we can take notice because we've been forewarned. We don't want this happening to our glorious city, Liverpool. This must be opposed, it must be stopped. And the only way you stop it is by contesting elections. Challenge those that are in favour, those that support it. Refugees welcome, obsessives, others that are saying it for career reasons, like my MP in Bain, he doesn't believe in refugees welcome, but he knows he has to say it, right? And this is what's happened, unfortunately. Also, as well, there has been a well-oiled smear machine in operation for decades that smears people who oppose what's happening, say, to our city now here in Liverpool, cultural change, smear them for being racist and all this stuff. But I think people are seeing through all that now. They're just empty trigger words that are there just to stifle any debate on what's happening in our city, because it's Liverpool I'm more concerned with because I live here. So people are now beginning to see through all that racist nonsense. It doesn't carry the weight it once did, right? So Nigel Farage talking about how mass immigration is making all our lives more miserable. You can't get a GP appointment. He's talking about assimilation not working, people coming over with different cultures, and it's not compatible with ours. There's a problem with that. As I've said, a typical example of that here in Liverpool is Kensington and Fairfield. Also, the late great Enoch Powell, he warned us all what was going to happen, and for some bizarre reason the Liberals took no notice and continued with this insane agenda, plan. I don't know what the word for it is, but they continued with mass immigration, and where we believed it was just going to stay in Birmingham and London, it's now transforming and changing our lovely city. You see, once you change people, once you change a community, right, once you change it, then everything else changes there. Its character, its identity, its culture, its ways, its beliefs, everything else changes. That's what happens, and that is what is happening and has happened in the once proud working class Scouse community of Kensington and Fairfield. So the three short videos of Nigel Farage, I hope they help in explaining and showing what Jones is actually trying to convey, my message. I'm trying to get across to the good people of this city. It is impacting on all our lives, and we must oppose it, right? The well-oiled smear machine, we have to just ignore that and treat it with the contempt it deserves. The silly words, the meaningless, right? Call us racist, call us whatever you want. My city comes before anything in the form of silly name calling, right? Liverpool is paramount, end of. You call me what you want, I'm going to stand here and I'm going to still do these videos. We must all oppose the nonsense, the smear words, and stand up and be counted. Now, I got 221 votes in the last council election, Kensington and Fairfield. I thought I'd have got a lot more, but maybe people think they can put their faith and trust in Keir Starmer's Labour. Well, fair enough, do that, but you're going to be in for a shock, because all those from 1968 to the present day, none of them have dealt with this thorny issue, which is mass immigration. It is impacting on all our lives. It is affecting services, schools, GPs, everything, transport, the whole lot. It is affecting everything. And so it's not something that is abstract, or it's not something that is just confined to London and Birmingham now. It's our turn, because them places are full. So we must oppose the cultural change of our glorious city, because if we don't, it's going to go the way these other places have gone, right? We can't allow that to happen. It's not racism, it's not prejudice. In fact, most people of colour I speak to totally agree with what I'm saying. As I've said, the small black Chinese Hindu communities that settled here in Liverpool decades ago, even hundreds of years ago, they were small in number and fitted in. There were Scousers then, the Scousers now. There wasn't, there isn't a problem. But what's happening now is totally different. Net migration, 600,000. Christ. some analysis that expected it to be higher. Well, I'm sure it will be. You see, the liberal mindset that these people are all subservient to, it's a mindset that's in the media, social media, academia. It's in everywhere where we're pushing this liberal agenda, and anyone opposed to it's a baddie. How this madness has gripped the minds of people, I don't know. But the politicians in power are all going along with it. Either they change what they're saying and what they're doing, or we vote them out. Okay, thank you.